Okay, welcome everybody to our April meeting of the Blackstone Franklin Square Neighborhood Association. We don't normally meet in April, but we're doing so this month because we've had two organizations that came to us needing to do community outreach meetings with us earlier than our May meeting. We had one of them present at our March meeting. So now we're having this meeting to accommodate the other one, which is the people from the Affinity Medical Marijuana Dispensary at 591 Albany Street. They've been operating as open and operating as a medical marijuana dispensary for the past few years, and now they are applying to the city of Boston for a permit to also offer adult use cannabis sales at the same location, which they would do in conjunction with a new ownership partner. So they're here to tell us about that, what they're seeking to do, and what changes, if any, there'd be in terms of what we would notice from the outside with regard to the store's operations. So this meeting is a complement to the official city-sponsored public meeting that they're going to hold on March 8th. And then after the presentation and answering any questions or comments that anybody here has, we expect to have a member vote on a motion stating that we as an organization do not oppose this change. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Becca to tell us about what's being proposed and introduce her team.
Thank you very much. So I'm Becca's placeholder for this evening, along with my co-counsel, Phil Silverman. My name is Leslie Delaney Hawkins. I am an attorney with Prince Rebelle Tie at One International Place in Boston. And with me this evening, we have Phil Silverman, my co-counsel, Charlotte Hanna, one of the founders of Rebelle, Penelope Nam Stephen of Rebelle, Marcus Williams of Rebelle, and Danny Rodriguez, who is the longtime manager of Affinity. As everyone here is aware, Affinity has been operating as a medical-only establishment at 591 Albany Street for several years. As you are aware, in order to provide medical services, you have to be vertically integrated. And what that means is that you have to grow, manufacture, and sell your own product. And that's obviously a very expensive investment. Based on what Affinity has seen over the last few years since operating, we see that there is a demand to co-locate recreational. I want to emphasize the fact that we are in no way moving away from medical. Our patients are still our priority, but for both operational reasons, efficiency reasons, and just to be quite honest, for financial reasons, it makes sense to co-locate at this site. Because of the cap on the number of interests over 10% that you can have in Massachusetts, we've brought on community growth partners as the new majority interest holder. And I'm actually going to ask Charlotte just to very briefly introduce herself.
Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for having us. So we are a cannabis company. Our first location that we opened in Massachusetts is in Great Barrington. Our store is called Rebelle, and we see lots of Boston customers there that are weekenders in the Berkshires. And we also have a cultivation and manufacturing and direct-to-consumer delivery business that we operate out of Northampton, Massachusetts, with our own products, flower products, and other manufactured products. So this will be our second store and not our first operation in Massachusetts necessarily. So I love the South End. This is just where we've always wanted to be, since I started the company. So I'm so thrilled to be able to have this opportunity, and especially working with a great partner in GTI, which currently owns Affinity. They've been a great partner to us. So this is just a continuation of our relationship.
Thank you. And I think it's also important to note that Community Growth Partners is also a minority-owned entity. We're not Boston equity under the Boston equity requirements, but it is minority-owned. So kind of just getting down to it, the change here is twofold. It is a request for a change in beneficial interest to reflect the new ownership, and then a change, I guess it's threefold, a change in doing business as from Affinity to Rebelle. And then the third is to co-locate adult use with medical. I'm sorry, I just saw something pop up in the chat, not related to this. We're not proposing to change anything else. There's not going to be any changes to the layout of the store, the hours of operation, the way our security functions, who our staff members are. So really for the potential impacts to the community, nothing is going to look or feel different from the outside or the inside. As part of this process, we have also reached out and met with City Council President Ed Flynn. And one of his requests, which I think is besides meeting with this group, obviously, was that we connect with the captain to just review our existing security and operations plans to make sure that there's no additional blind spots that the captain or any of the team over at BPD would like to see covered. And, to date, they haven't had any issues. Obviously, you are the ones who live in the community. They're the ones who, work in the community with you, so they know better than anyone. So, we greatly appreciate any and all of your feedback. In terms of process, because this is medical only, this requires, in the eyes of the Boston Cannabis Board, it's technically for the adult use considered a new license being added on to the existing medical. So this will have a full process with, as was mentioned, our community impact meeting will be held on May 8th. We will then have to go to a hearing before the Boston Cannabis Board, a public hearing, obviously, as everyone here is very familiar with. And then we'll go to the Zoning Board of Appeals because our existing zoning relief is specific to medical only. And then should we be approved at all of these various stages, there will be a change of ownership filed and a change of control filed with the Cannabis Control Commission, as well as the vetting of the adult use application. So this is obviously a group that very well in terms of affinity, what they've given back to the community to date, how their operations run. And we're really just looking to continue the great work that they've done and to continue serving the South End. I know one of the questions when we've kind of briefly talked about this is the buffer zone question. And I just want to kind of get ahead of that and address it. Under the zoning code, the buffer zone is established, the half-mile buffer zone is established by any cannabis establishment, regardless of which license type. So a retail recreational is no different in the eyes of the buffer zone than a medical. So we actually established the buffer zone. We know there's another proposal. We're not here to talk about that, but just in terms of conditional use permit versus variance, for us, this is a conditional use permit. We established that buffer zone. It does not matter that we're adding an additional type or seeking to add, I should say, that buffer zone exists. So in the eyes of the zoning board, this is a conditional use. In the eyes of the Boston Cannabis Board, no heightened level of scrutiny would apply because of proximity to another establishment. Again, I know we're kind of pressed for time and we want to keep this high level. We do have a full deck that we're going to be presenting to the community at the community impact meeting on the 8th. I am more than happy to circulate that. We're obviously here to answer any questions, but I think our time is probably better spent with your questions on process and the proposal than you just hearing me talk.
Great. Thank you, Leslie. And sorry for not noticing that it was you and not Becca, but
I've been called much worse things. I'll take Becca Rutenberg any day of the week.
Great. Questions, comments? Quick question. I have a quick question, or a couple of actually. The meeting on the public meeting on the 8th, is that a virtual meeting?
Yes, that will be held virtually. They're still only doing virtual meetings at ONS.
Okay, and do you guys have the Zoom link yet for that?
I will send it all over to you.
Okay, appreciate it. Just so we can post it.
Yeah, Leslie, it's Victor. I was wondering, how did you guys decide on the South End as your second location?
I'm going to ask Charlotte to step in on that one. It's a great question.
Well, we felt that our brand that we've built at Rebelle is a good fit for the South End community. It's definitely I think people would like it. And I would say it's an elevated sort of merchandised, warm, friendly shopping experience. And so I think I felt like of all of the neighborhoods in Boston, like the South End felt like home for Rebelle more than really any other.
Very good. And do you have plans on going to other communities? I heard you had mentioned Northampton earlier. I used to live there many years ago, and it's sort of the same kind of vibe over there.
Totally. I love Northampton too.
Are you going to look at other locations within the Boston area or elsewhere? It's not really. I think 2 seems like the right amount
for me in Massachusetts, given the saturation in the market right now. There's certainly not saturation in Boston, but I mean, I think across the rest of the state there is. So, and especially in Northampton, our Northampton business is just cultivation, manufacturing, and direct-to-consumer delivery. So, so yeah, I think 2 feels like the right amount. But if there's an opportunity in Chestnut Hill, something like that, that would be something we'd love to be a part of. But it's got to be the right fit for us.
And who are going to be your main customers, do you think?
I'm hoping people in the community. So I know that there's a really strong base of patients that visit the dispensary from all around the community, and I'm happy to continue to serve those patients and bring in new customers from the neighborhood.
And Victor, you probably being active know this, but what we're seeing, especially in Boston, given kind of the density and the number of these establishments that are going to open, is that it's just like your neighborhood wine shop or your neighborhood coffee shop. It's pass-through traffic. I'm not driving, not to break your heart, Charlotte, I'm not driving in from Weymouth to come to the South End for the most part, right?
Yeah.
It's with some exceptions. It's essentially, when the neighborhood is, where I want to go, what kind of customer service am I most comfortable with? And that's one of the reasons that this group was, so interested in the South End, and it's such I think honestly, a great group to represent, because they do have that reputation of quality products and quality customer service. And I think that's really important, especially as this industry moves forward.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really proud. Thank you for that, Leslie. If you Google Rebelle, Rebelle, our website is called Let's Rebelle. Hey, Marcus, do you mind dropping it in the chat real quick?
Sure.
Let'srebelle.com. You'll see who we are. And if you Google us, you'll see we have 680 Google reviews, and we have 4.8 stars. I mean, I think we're probably one of the top rated. I know Rise is amazing, and we love Rise too, but I think we're one of the top rated dispensaries in the state. And so I'm really proud of that. And we're going to bring that high touch, high service kind of model that, we've become known for to the community.
Excellent. Yeah, good luck with your second store. I'm excited for you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Heather just joined us. So Heather, do you have it? We're just in the question section now, but do you have a question or a comment?
No question right now. Sorry to be late.
Okay, no worries. Anyone else? This might be our quickest meeting ever.
Don't jinx us. All of a sudden you'll have 20 people coming.
Let me see if I can think of some more. The problem with me is we've spoken a couple of times now prior to this, so I've mostly exhausted my questions.
And just if it's helpful, one thing I want to note is that Charlotte's kind of not doing herself enough, giving herself enough credit. They are the top ranked, the top rated recreational establishment in the Commonwealth at their Great Barrington location. They're known for offering that kind of high level service, high level quality of product, which I think is especially important. My background is I was the general counsel to the Boston Cannabis Board. So I've seen all of the great proposals and I've seen all of the bad ones. And one of the things I think is really impressive about this, and keeping in mind that, medical is such a key component, that they're also providing those services to their patients, right? Not just, I don't have a medical card, but they're going to give me great customer service when I come in. But I think it's so important to continue that emphasis on the medical users and the patients, and not have them kind of boxed out of the industry. And I think that's something really important about this location and about what Charlotte and her team are proposing.
Yeah, I'll just add a couple of things too, since maybe it'll stir some questions. I know a lot of folks, or at least historically, have had concerns generally about, these types of operations coming into the neighborhood and, sucking the soul from the neighborhood, for lack of a better word, or not, being a good fit for the neighborhood. And hopefully I can assure everyone, it's not just lip service, when we say we want to actually be a part of this community. I think it's something that we've done very well in Great Barrington. We have a location in Great Barrington that is directly adjacent to a small residential cul-de-sac. And, as a lifelong Bostonian myself, you can tell when you can tell when the neighborhood's mad at you. They were very, we moved into their block basically. And similarly, we did our best to assuage a lot of concerns initially. But I think for us, the proof in the pudding was just, being an honest operator, being a faithful community member, participating where we can as far as, social impact goals to further help the neighborhood. For example, we have a local clinic right next to us in Great Barrington that services a lot of undocumented individuals. We donated funds there. So just know, like this is a place where, once we put our flag down, we're here for good. You can honestly consider us a neighbor. I can tell you, I'm personally very excited about this opportunity. We haven't talked much, but I'm from the neighborhood. I'm born and bred in Boston. I'm a lifelong, Dorchester resident. I still own my house there. It's where I met my wife. It's where I raised my kids. I'm pretty sure my kids are third generation Bostonians. It's not something you see anymore. So I understand pride of place. I understand pride of neighborhood. I think probably like some of our staunchest neighborhood association members here, and there's nothing wrong with that. We've heard a lot of feedback from associations about, we don't want this here. And I think there have been certain particulars where, we've had to listen to that feedback and say, hey, that makes sense. We're not going to try to force a square into a circle here. And I can tell you again, initially when I met Charlotte in 2019 and we first, started this journey, I can't even recall how much real estate in the South End we looked at. It really comes down to like a perfect match. And sometimes that's hard to do. And I can tell you that initially we had to segue all the way to Western Massachusetts to get it going, and now 3 years later, because we haven't really stopped looking at Boston. It's always been, if we could find the right locale, a strategic position for us because of those deep roots. So I can't tell you how excited we were to have, what seems like the perfect opportunity here. I think the right partners here to really execute. So, just wanted to, pass that along for you guys or anyone that has any concerns about participation of the company. I will be there a lot regularly myself. I'm very much a first name basis guy. I don't mind being a bit of a punching bag. Like, I'll tell people to their face, like, call me directly. I'll yell at me and I'll handle the issue. We want folks to know that there is an ear at this company. We know sometimes the experience hasn't always been that way. So let me just say up front that that's the case, not just when we open, but even prior and during, I think, that building stage while we're going through licensing. If there's ever any questions that come up, if folks want to come by and see what's going on, just know that we are that open. And we want the neighborhood to feel comfortable, and we want the neighborhood to, participate in this rebrand. And I think this relaunch, and it's something that I think we all can benefit from. So just kind of wanted to add that and introduce myself a bit, and hopefully that stirred, some more questions from folks if there are any.
Thank you, Marcus. Yeah, well, to what you just said, I mean, speaking both as one of the leaders in this organization and then also somebody who lives around the corner from you on East Brookline Street, we've had a very good relationship with the dispensary really from the beginning, in all of its iterations, going back to its founding president, Vin, who came before us probably 5 years ago or so now to tell us about what then was just an idea in his head and some other people's. And then when you opened, I think at the very end of 2019, GTI came in, Danny became the manager, all the way up to now. And I'm, hopeful that we're going to have an equally great relationship with Community Growth Partners and Rebelle. So it's been, I think, from our standpoint, a real positive to have the dispensary in the neighborhood. I have not personally heard any criticism of it. Nobody, at least so far tonight, has come here, I think, to with any significant negative. I certainly haven't. And I have also, just for the record, I haven't heard from anybody with regard to this proposal who has said that they are opposed to it. Obviously, we don't purport to speak for everybody in the neighborhood. We don't hear from everybody. We'll see what happens at the public meeting, but certainly that's been what I have heard myself, and I think what this organization has heard. I think it's fair to say that, as a board, we have been, very positively impressed by the dispensary and the experience that it's been with the neighborhood. So
David, can I
wanted to put that
mention
into record.
something?
Sure, of course.
Hi, it's Heather Govern. I live across the street, almost literally. I'm not at the Allen House, but 2 doors down, 1688 Washington. And I have 2 little kids who go to Hurley School right around the corner. I'm in support of you guys moving in. I don't have a problem with it. And I am not a marijuana user, so I don't want anybody to make any assumptions on that front. Not that there's anything wrong with it, just not my thing. I did want to say that I've had neighbors who are not necessarily, who are in my building and next door, seeming to make assumptions about cars pulling up and cars blocking, Worcester Square on that corner. And the reason I bring it up is because I think it would be good in the public meeting just to be prepared to talk about, any
Hey, Heather.
hopes to avoid that. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, just to be clear though, we have so many balls up in the air. So just to be clear though, you're describing a situation at the proposed Andy's Cleaners dispensary, right?
Yes,
Whereas right here, we're talking about 591 Albany Street.
Sorry. Okay.
But I know you know that. So I
Well,
just wanted to
anyway, but I will say that is a lot of people in the
Right.
neighborhood, wherever it is, are worried about cars blocking the way. So I just, and sometimes there's no other criticism other than that. So just thought I'd mention that.
Right.
Absolutely. No, that's helpful. And obviously that's something, especially in an area as densely populated as the South End, that I think every kind of business, no matter what you are, sees. And I think the Affinity team has done a great job of ensuring that there is no double parking or anything of that nature. And this team's going to continue doing exactly that and educating our patients and our customers as well.
Right. To Heather's point, I've been to a lot of these meetings too, and I know you guys know this too, but she's certainly right, obviously right, that when people do have objections, that's often the thing. They still hark back to the days when Netta was in Brookline, was the only thing in town, and allegedly there were these huge lines that required police details, et cetera, et cetera. Seems like that's a thing in the past, but for some people that's still in their heads.
Absolutely.
I mean, so certainly parking's never been an issue with regard to your current facility, and by comparison with other places in the South End, you do have the advantage of being on Albany Street, where it's relatively easier to park. But okay.
If I could just add something, David, too.
Yep.
My name is Matt Brown. I'm the current general manager at Affinity. And I just wanted to say, to the whole community that I got a chance to meet with Charlotte and Penelope with my team. And, I think that the new store is going to be really, really aligned with like what we've been doing so far in the community, and just keep growing it. I'm really excited to see them come in and, integrate into the store we already have with the team we have. And I think it's going to be a really, really great partnership.
Great. Does anyone else, any other civilian, so to speak, want to make a comment or ask a question? Because we do have a couple people here who need to, on our side, who need to leave not long after 7. So we'd like to get our vote done.
One comment. Hi,
Yeah,
everybody.
go ahead.
I'm on the board with Blackstone Franklin Square. I know some of you. In preparation for your upcoming community meeting, one thing I would suggest is, or being prepared to address is, some of the concerns that might come up around the streetscape. I know with some of the recent dispensaries, there's feeling that given some of the regulations required to operate these dispensaries, you have to have the building sort of, appear to be a little bit shut in, right? Things can't be visible from the street. So there's limitations there, but perhaps there's some creative ways as you move into the recreational arena that you can, provide some more lighting or something that makes the building look a little bit more active, right? I think the medical use case probably warranted a little bit more discretion. But now that you might be moving into the recreational space, anything that can be done, that's not obviously material construction, right? But anything that can be done to liven up the exterior, make it maybe look a little bit more active, would be received really well, just based on some anecdotal feedback that I've heard with some of the other dispensaries that are being proposed in the South End. And some of those folks are getting creative with what they can do, given the obvious regulations that you must adhere to. So that would just be more of a comment and suggestion. I mean, there's more development happening down there, so that'll hopefully help with keeping the street active and positive. But just from your perspective, now that you're going to be moving into the recreational arena, maybe there's some things that can be done to liven up the space, right, and just make it look like it's an active, used property, which may not have been the case given you were medical and there's different compliant reasons. So just a suggestion there.
Absolutely. No, that's great feedback. And I think that's one of the things about this group, and one of the things that people really like about the Great Barrington location is that it's an enjoyable space to be in, and it's an enjoyable space to look at, whether you're inside or outside. And that's something we're definitely, as you noted, Jonathan, within the confines of the CCC regulations, that we're going to look to replicate here as part of the rebranding.
Awesome. That's great to hear. I think that's going to make a lot of people happy. Because from the most part, folks are supportive of businesses coming to the neighborhood and want active streetscapes and active storefronts. So that'll be a big win for you guys. So
we took a dilapidated bird feed store and turned it into the most beautiful boutique out there. So and I'm a native Bostonian. I promise you, we're not scared, and we will make it look like the South End for sure.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, I think the store that Affinity built and that GTI has been operating is really great bones to start. It's a great canvas, if you will. And I have some ideas about how to, take it to the next level a little bit and make it really beautiful, even more beautiful than it is today. Even on the street, I think that the front elevation is really cool. I love old brick warehousey buildings. I mean, that's kind of like what Marcus knows. That's what I was dying to open. Anyway, and so I think I have some ideas about how we could really make it a beautiful entrance and add to what's happening on that street with some of the there's development happening there, certainly, and we're excited to be a part of that.
Awesome. That's great to hear. I think that's going to go over really well, especially as you enter into the wider community meeting. So thanks for taking the suggestion.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, so let's go ahead and do our vote with what voters are here, which isn't very many, but and so what it would be a motion that Blackstone Franklin Square Neighborhood Association would not oppose this application for adult use and or would support it. And that's the way we structured back when we did a vote on your original proposal. That's how we structured it. The logic was some people might feel like, hey, I'm actually actively in favor of this particular thing, and therefore I want to vote yes. And some people would have the attitude that, I don't care, or I just think, it's fine. And in that way, and they might kind of think of their position as more not being opposed. So that's why we kind of give people both those options as opposed to just being opposed. So that's how we structure the motion. So I'd like to put that motion out there. And so Heather's already voted yes in the chat. So she's won. I set up a poll, but given that there's only 3 or 4 of us, let's just vote. So I'm going to vote aye. Jonathan?
I vote aye.
Okay. Want to vote, Victor?
Yeah, I also support it. I think you guys have thought this out very carefully, and so it's a yes.
Great. Do we have any other people other than representatives of the proposal who are, or elected officials, representatives here? I don't see anybody. I know the rest of our board supports this also. So we'll go ahead and say that this motion carries, and we will give our support to you guys, and I'll write a letter that you can use, and one of us, probably me, but maybe other of us as well, will come to the public meeting and restate that. But again, I think you've earned it. I feel like this is a good proposal, and I feel like you've established a track record again under all the different iterations that you've had since the dispensary is open. It's all been a positive experience for us, and I'm very hopeful that it'll continue.
This might be the shortest cannabis meeting that's ever happened. So
Leslie, would you be able to share with David the details for the community meeting so we can make sure somebody from Blackstone is representing?
I will send it over right now.
And can you send, if you don't mind, can you send me the deck too, that or what you would have done if you gave a deck?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, that'd just be helpful. Great.
And I think you said it was May
Thank you.
8th. Is that when it is?
May 8th, correct.
Let me just can I just ask you guys, and this is unrelated to your application, but is related to your physical building. So I obviously want the 595 Albany Street, which is now an empty lot and is going to become the condo project that Drew Broussard is developing. And he's presented to us a number of times. We have a good relationship with him. And I've seen that his people have been doing some work on the wall. And I know that even before he got into the project, he knew that there were going to be some issues there. And I said, it seems like maybe there's more issues than anybody suspected. But is that affecting? Is that affecting your operation or?
I don't believe so. No,
Okay.
we can double back on that, but I do not believe so.
I can speak to that if you'd
No,
like.
all right,
So,
Matt, there you go.
Yeah, so we were actually finally at the tail end of that in terms of the supporting wall that was being built. So they will soon be taking, if you've seen the supports that are there, they will soon be removing the supports. We've actually had the supports inside the store removed as of yesterday. So
Good.
they were finally pretty much done with that wall. We're very happy. So yeah, it should be,
the roof didn't fall on your head.
No. So.
I know from Vin, your predecessor who developed the dispensary, that when they did the construction there, they basically discovered that it was nothing more than a dirt floor with a jury rigged roof over it.
Yeah.
Wow.
There wasn't a lot to the structure prior to you guys moving in.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Thank you
Cool.
so much, everybody, for,
Hey.
I guess it sounds like you had a special meeting to get this done. So I appreciate you taking your time, take time out of your evening to do this so much. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. And once assuming you do get your approval, maybe we'll have you back at a future meeting where you can kind of tell us what the timeline is. Actually, let me ask you that.
Yeah.
That was the one question I forgot to ask. What do you imagine the timeline is? Again, assuming that you receive a favorable determination from the city.
I believe we're going to be on the agenda for the CCC to approve the change of ownership in May. We had an interview which sort of signaled the last stage of that part of the process.
Okay.
And so there's two other contingencies that we need to clear to close and take control of the operation. And that's what Leslie is working on, is the local, getting the local host community agreement and the ZBA approval, which seems like the ZBA part is a bit of a moving target. So hopefully, if we get, I'm hopeful this summer that we would take control as a medical dispensary, and then a couple of months before the end of the year, offer adult use. So I'm really excited to get to know the rest of the members of the association, because I'm hoping you will be customers, and I'd love to pick your brain offline, have coffee, whatever,
Okay.
about like what the community wants.
Okay, great. Well, we'd definitely love to do that. Meet you guys
Great.
in person. Good. All right. So I guess at a minimum, some of us will see you on May 8th virtually. I will provide you with a letter reflecting our vote this evening. You will send us the deck that you
Absolutely.
would show, and also the Zoom links for the public meeting so that we can publicize that.
Great. Well, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Again, you guys scheduling, and we look forward to keeping the conversation going.
Great. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Good night.
Thanks.
Bye.
See you in May.